Now, we live in an era where it's almost, most people, I would say the majority of people who live today would agree that most likely democracy is better than monarchy. Pure monarchy, that is, because most monarchy we have at the moment are not really like pure monarchy, like absolute. Like most monarchy we have today, kings are just the head figures, but the real power resides with people who are elected every 5 or 7 or 10 years. So but when we look at the kind of monarchy that existed when Baruch was writing this book, the king of and queens of England and the much of the rest of Europe, and even in Asia, Japan, for example, even China had a king. These other places, everywhere there were these monarchs who were very powerful. Their word was law. And so today we most of us tend to think that democracy is an upgrade, is something better that happened after monarchies that were absolute monarchies at least. But Baruch does talk about something. He doesn't really say like monarchies are better than democracies. He of course argues that democracy is better than monarchy. But he makes an observation that I found to be so interesting. He says that when you look through history, monarchies and governments where there was this one person who had the absolute power have tended to be more stable and to exist longer than in societies where there was democracy, where the people ruled. The people ruled. Of course, if you go far back, you find democracies that have been the past in the ancient Rome and the Greece and those societies. They practice democracy, very robust democracies. If you read some books, for example, Herodotus' histories, you'll find that even there's a book I'm reading, the History of Rome. You find that there were elements of very robust, very well-organized democracies, but they never existed for long. They existed for a few centuries, and then dictators came along, dismantled them. Dictators turned into kings and queens, and then that went on and on. So he makes that observation that while democracy is good, throughout history, it has tended not to be stable, like not to exist long. This is what he says. Experience is thought to teach that it makes for peace and concord to confer the whole authority upon one man. For no dominion has stood so long without any notable change as that of the Turks. And on the other hand, there were none so little lasting as those which were popular or democratic, nor in any which so many seditions are. So he gives, he says, he gives an example of the what was it called, the empire that the Turks founded that existed for a very long time. I'm missing the name. I know it, but I'm missing it at this moment. But you know, the empire that arose out of Turkey, that the place we know today is Turkey, and ruled much of Middle East and some part of Europe and some part of Africa. It existed for many years, and it was that kind of empire where there was one person at the top with absolute powers, and he gives that as an example. But of course, if we look throughout history, we might find more of that kind of empires that existed for a very long time, but all of them, or most of them, had this one figure at the top who had the absolute power. But then we had these small democracies that arose and they were crushed. They did not exist long in ancient Rome and Greece and those parts of the world. That could be, that's like the examples we can get. And of course, there are very few places in the world where democracy even had a chance to come up. So the phenomenon of democracy is more recent. Okay, it existed in that past, ancient Rome, Greece, Macedonia, those parts of the world. But even there, the democracy was easily crushed, and dictators and then monarchs arose. But much of the rest of the world has had the experience of strong people being at the top and having the absolute power. But he doesn't say that that's good. It's just an observation. In fact, he makes an argument that is slavery, basically, the absolute monarchs. So this is what he says. Yet if slavery, barbarism, and desolation are to be called peace, men can have no worse misfortune. No doubt, there are usually more and sharper quarrels between parents and children than between masters and slaves, yet it advances not the art of housekeeping to change fathers' right into the right of property and count children but as slaves. Slavery then, not peace, is furthered by handing over to one man the whole authority. For peace, as we said before, consists not in mere absence of war, but in a union or agreements of mind. So he says, even though these commonwealth that have had one person with absolute authority have tended to seem like they are peaceful. They are not really peaceful, because it's more of master and slave. And he says, yes, in a family, he like uses this to illustrate. He says, in a family, father and children, there is always this a lot of quarrel between them. There is more quarrel between father and children than there is between master and slave. So in master and slave, it might seem like this peaceful, but it's not really peaceful. So it kind of like makes an argument that, yeah, his observation is commonwealth that have had one person having the absolute power tend to last long, but that doesn't mean they are peaceful, because they are basically, the person at the top is a master, and the people below the masters are slaves, basically. Yeah.